At the northern foot of Qingya Mountain stood a fire god temple, where resided a woman named Huoshen. The world whispered she was no mortal, but a demon. Her eyes could ensnare souls, and her wolf hair brush could paint the bones of spirits. She did not depict their outward forms, but their very essences. The temple walls were lined with such portraits. The pupils of a mountain cat held moonlight, the scales of a flower snake oozed scarlet beads, and on quiet midnight, the faint scratch of claws against paper could always be heard drifting from the canvases. It was awakening of insects that day, and thunder split the cloud layer. Huoshen bent over her desk, sketching a portrait of a fox spirit. The rice paper beneath her brush was aged, exhumed from an ancient grave, its yellowed surface brittle to the touch. The ink in her stone slab was mixed with grave soil and half a tail of cinnabar, a deep, inky red like congealed blood scabs. No sooner had the tip of her brush formed the fox's pointed ears than strange things began to happen. It was not the ink bubbling, it was the brush moving on its own. Huoshen's fingers exerted no force, yet the wolf hair brush dragged across the paper, leaving a crooked trail. It was not the outline of a fox's ear, but a string of tiny paw prints, three-lobed with sharp hooks, as if an invisible fox was dancing across the page. She frowned, lifting her hand to wipe them away, but the moment her fingertip touched the paper, the prints seeped into the fiber and vanished, leaving behind a faint, acrid stench, like rotting grass over a wild fox's grave. She did not pause, continuing to outline the fox's 9 tails. They needed to be tangled and intertwined, each tip dabbed with a spot of cinnabar, the trials of a spirit's cultivation. But as the brush completed its third curve, the window lattice suddenly creaked, not from the wind, but from being struck by something. Huoshen glanced up. Outside the window, all was empty save for the old pagoda tree, its branches swaying violently. Paper money hanging from the boughs drifted down in a fine gray dust. When she looked back at the paper, the hairs on her arms stood on end. The fox spirit in the painting was missing one eye. Where the left eye should have been was a dark, hollow hole, as if gouged out by brute force. Worse still, ink was seeping out of the hole, not dripping downward, but floating upward. The ink condensed into thin wispy tendrils of smoke, swirling above the desk. Within the smoke drifted an extremely soft, faint whimper, like a young fox crying. Playing tricks, Huoshen sneered, dipping her brush in cinnabar to fill the missing eye. But her wrist was seized. It was cold, damp with the moisture of grave soil, as if clamped by a hand just risen from the earth. She looked down. Her wrist was bare, yet a ring of livid black marks was creeping up her skin toward her heart. The black iron paperweight on the desk,